Oh no. We got... Hold on, guys. We're coming. Alright. Let me get my earbuds in. I think we are... Nakatomi, what's up? Shadow, what's going on? Give me just a second, guys. Jason, are you there?
My name is Giftedgaia, and I am here.
Okay, let me switch over to like Minds. And so this is the first time that I'm using Streamlabs, which is interesting. So, yeah, I feel like we'll have to do some minor adjustments to camera placement. Once you get to see the playback of this, actually, you can see it now on the stream if you open up the stream.
I can. Yep.
So, it gives you a slightly better idea of where you are in regards to where I'm at, and we can try to on the next time get that set up a little bit better.
Let's pull mine in a little tighter. It'd be nice if it was a 16:9 instead of a 4:3, but
yeah, for some reason when I try to do custom with this webcam, it won't let me. As soon as I set it to custom, it turns off. So I don't know. It's.
I mean, it's a 4:3 square. It just looks a little compressed.
But by the way, Shadow, good morning. Nakatomi, how are you today? Yeah. So we're going to give this a try. This is something I want to start doing every week. I'm JonnyClearwater. This is my co-host, Giftedgaia. And this is Like Minds. We're going to... let me hit refresh once on my screen. So what's going to be interesting... Good morning, the Clearwater Squad. Look at that. I love that emote. Did you see my emote, Jay?
Is it on Twitch?
Yeah, it's on the chat on Twitch.
Oh, I see. I have it compressed in a window here, so it might not pop up. There it is. Hey, good morning.
Yeah, that's Shadow Dog.
Oh,
that was my very first subscriber.
That emote's awesome.
We became friends, and we play on the PlayStation now.
Nice.
Pretty much every day. Wish you had that fucking PlayStation so you could play Dead by Daylight with us.
Man, I'll tell you, with the release of RDR2 and now the online, component coming at the end of November, it's tempting.
Oh yeah. So like I want to play Red Dead also, but it's like the hype thing to stream at the moment, Sure. And I don't want to jump right on that bandwagon. So what I want to do is I want to wait till like right around Christmas time.
There you go.
I figure.
On sale.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about it being on sale. I just figure that if I wait a little bit, then I won't like jump on the hype train, and then at the same exact time, being that it'll have been out for a little while at that point, I won't be putting up spoilers.
Sure.
Getting started, which by the way, welcome to streaming on Twitch.
Yeah, I guess this is the first time we played here, or I've played here. You've been here for what, like a month now? Almost a month now?
Yeah, I'm closing in on 30 days. I have 6 days to go. You see that I have a little follower goal at the bottom there?
I saw it. You added one this morning.
My follower goal is to hit 100 followers in my first 30 days, and I'm at 93. So I'm really fucking close, but I have 6 days left, and if by chance I manage to pull it off, I'm gonna dye the beard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What color?
I'm gonna go with old man. I'm going white.
I was hoping for hot pink, but
well, so here's the thing. My original plan was that I was going to shave the beard. All right. But Heather likes the beard.
Okay.
Okay.
Got to keep Mama happy.
Right, but there's there's like this toss up here. Like I already said I was going to do something with the beard, so I've got to do something with the beard. So I was like, well, what if I dye it? And then she was like, I don't want you to dye it either. Her thought process is she doesn't want to, because the baby's coming soon. So of course we're gonna have like some family photos and everything with the new baby, and she's like, she doesn't want me to look like an idiot,
Yeah.
So what I've decided to do, which kind of it's gonna be like a 2-for-1, realistically, because I'm gonna dye the beard. I'm gonna dye it white. If it looks cool, which of course the wife will let me know, but if it looks cool, then I'll keep it white for a little while. I mean, Christmas is coming, and I want that fucking Santa beard,
Sure.
And I mean, even though you can't like really tell right now, I'm going white anyway. Like I've got this like, it's coming. So I figure you know what? Let's go ahead and test it, and I'll dye it white. All right.
Sure.
Meanwhile, if she thinks it looks absolutely retarded, then I have to shave it off. All right. So if I can manage to hit this follower goal in that period of time, we're talking about a 2-for-1, man. If she doesn't like the white, because you'll get to see me dye the beard, I'll get to keep it for a couple weeks, and then I'll have to shave it, and I'll be Babyface Johnny on the thing. So
I don't think I've ever seen Babyface Johnny. I'd have to go deep into your social media to see if I could find that.
You're not a silver. My wife says you're not a silver fox yet. I don't think white is going to look good in the pictures either. So, either way, I got to deliver something. Look, Shadow's chiming in. Oh, that's the love, Shadow. Thank you. So what's interesting with what we're doing here is, well, for starters, one of the so I've been on Twitch now, all right, and I think I've been cruising along. There's another thing I'm looking forward to doing once I hit 100 followers, and that's I'm going to start mixing it up. So right now I've only been playing Dead by Daylight, and I love Dead by Daylight. Don't get me wrong, and it's really just lucky for me that Dead by Daylight happens to be one of the top 20 trending games here on Twitch. So it's giving me that opportunity to fall into something that's popular and try to snag those followers. Because I mean, you know me, I like, I've told you plenty of times, I like to play the indie games, I like the retro games, but it's a lot harder to get yourself noticed and found when that's going on. So I haven't been doing that yet. And I figure once I get 100 followers, it'll give me the opportunity to go a little more variety. So I'll still play a lot of Dead by Daylight, but I'll be able to start adding in, the other games and know that I still have at least a slight following base there. So yeah, Twitch is what we're doing now. I'm really enjoying it. The community here is pretty fucking awesome. Not going to lie. It changes things for what our original plan was, though, which is slightly interesting. Not 100% sure how this is going to all play out in the long run. Because our original plan was to have an edited show that we release on Steemit. However, we don't have an editor really available for us at the moment. So what we've decided to do is just straight live stream this and then upload this at a later time to Steemit. But it takes some of what our initial plan was out and puts us into, fuck it, let's just see what happens,
Well, plans change from time to time, and I mean, aside from that, where we're at right now is not where we're going to be a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, etc. So I'm not opposed, and you and I have talked behind the scenes, but I'm not opposed to just kind of getting it going and just, having our weekly conversation and just build up a following if anybody's interested in hearing us chat, and going from there and making a more polished product later down the road.
Well, I think people will eventually really kind of get into this. Because I can be a sarcastic, fun time, and you have this great podcasty voice. Like you come across very well. You speak eloquently. You have a good voice. It's easy on the ears, and I think the combination of the two of us together is going to work out.
Agreed.
Meanwhile, so here's another thing I do. I just brought Hots or Shots over here also. Oh shit, something's happening. I won't know till I see it pop up. Oh, Cowboy, what's up, buddy? This is another guy that I met on here, and we now play regularly also. As a matter of fact, Nakatami, who started in the chat, who isn't there at the moment, Nakatami and Shadow and Cowboy, we all play together, and we fuck with killers in Dead by Daylight. But yeah, so I brought Hots or Shots over here, and I'm putting up episodes every Monday and Friday. So basically, what I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna stream games 7 days a week. I'm pretty sure I'm still gonna do a stream on Saturdays, because I want to put up so many hours worth of content a day. All right. With my gaming, I always am guaranteeing a 4-hour stream. Obviously, we're not going to do that with a talk show. All right. But if I'm guaranteeing 4 hours, and we put, if I put an hour to 2 hours, or, if there's going to be some days where we're doing a show where we could just run, especially if, we got a 6-pack and we're just cruising along.
You bet.
So I brought Hots or Shots over. I put up new episodes Monday through Friday. I'm streaming 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. minimum Monday through Friday. I am going to keep streaming on the weekends also. So the game plan here is to have 7 days a week of some gaming, new episodes available of Hots or Shots every Monday and Friday, and then we'll have Like Minds on here on Saturday mornings. And as I slowly build this follower and get more people active in chat, we're going to be able to engage with them and yeah. So Like Minds. So everybody that's here right now, you're seeing the start of something completely fresh, completely new. It's going to change. We will eventually get production value up higher, and Giftedgaia may get some more penguins. And
I really like the penguins. We can talk about that later.
I might turn that fucking light on at some point there.
So you've been playing the shit out of Dead by Daylight.
I have, dude.
How many hours do you have on that game in the past, 25 days?
I have no fucking clue at all. I don't know if it shows me that on a PlayStation. I'm sure it does. And now that we've mentioned it, I'm sure like Shadow or Cowboy will tell me how I can go figure that out. But yeah, I play the fuck out of it, dude.
So what do you think you average a day on that game over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks?
Nothing less than 6 hours a day.
So that's quite a few many hours. That's more than some people work on a weekly basis in a real job, quote unquote real job. So in my mind, I'm curious to know, and I thought about this prior as far as, I pop in your stream every now and then, and I'm sub to you, on YouTube, which I spend a lot more time on YouTube than I do Twitch.
Dude, I can't stream YouTube anymore.
Oh, is that the case?
Yeah, I'm affiliated now.
Oh, I see.
Right. So because I have the opportunity to earn money here,
sure,
I'm not allowed to share this content. This basically, they have the exclusive to the content for
Gotcha.
24 hours.
Gotcha.
So there's no more and it wasn't like I never intended to use YouTube anyway. I was really just using it for the embedded link for Steam It.
Gotcha.
But now all I'm going to do is when our episodes are over and we go to VOD here, then after the 24 hours, I will upload the VOD over to Steam It.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm really into mixed martial arts as a sport. So I get a lot of my content as far as like interviews and different mixed martial arts podcasts. I'm sub to a bunch of them on YouTube. You can't find that content that I know of here on Twitch. So, and I'm pretty much a noob when it comes to Twitch, to be honest with you. I understand the value of the platform. It's, what the biggest gaming streaming service that there is, as far as I know. I haven't had a lot of time to play games here recently. And if I do have free time and I feel like watching something, I will head over to YouTube and check out that mixed martial arts content, and also First Amendment audits. We can talk about that later too.
First Amendment audits?
Yeah, I was wondering how you're going to react to that terminology, so I'll be interested to bring that up later. So anyway, if I find myself on YouTube, it always...
Nakatami, you did miss your shout out, but you're back. So shout out to Nakatami also. Thank you for being here.
I heard that shout out.
This is my friend Giftedgaia. I don't know, Nakatami, if you've seen any of my Hots or Shots episodes yet, but I met Giftedgaia. He was a guest on my show, and we hit it off We hit off right away, and we've become friends. And we've been planning for way too fucking long to do something together. And what you're watching right now is the first attempt at it.
Our friendship was formed the very first night over a bottle of whiskey. Most of the bottle of whiskey.
I think we killed it.
It was pretty close. There's some missing time during that evening, to be honest with you, but it was a fun night.
So do we have anything specific we wanted to talk about today?
Well, I've got all kinds of things rolling around my mind. I guess kind of rewinding a little bit, talking about your playtime on Dead by Daylight. I'm curious to know what your dreams have been like over the last 3 weeks. If you're putting that programming and imprinting into your head.
Yeah. So you do. I mean, you're aware that most of the time the part of the dreams that you're recognizing are usually right before you wake up. Right.
Sure.
And I'm not gonna lie, I am dropping a lot of pallets on motherfuckers in my dreams. I've been like waking up and I'm like, yeah, I fucked that Freddy up. Did a Yoshi, bitch. Like, I'm fucking
pulling friends and family off hooks.
Yeah, it's mostly the bit that's been engaging with my dreams has been me getting better at trolling killers in the game. Yeah, but it has been affecting my dreams just a little bit. Not great.
I believe you.
But yeah, it's been interesting for sure. I want to go back to your little fucking First Amendment audits. Let's go there. Let's see what the fuck you're talking about.
All right, let's start there. So, how do I put this? So, I'm the type of personality that I don't really follow orders very well. Like, I'm pretty reasonable, I feel, to work with. But if people want to direct kind of their intentions or their aggressions on me, I shut off very quickly. I would not have made it in a military service type model. So I'm also, I live in the United States, and we have a constitution and a Bill of Rights. And I feel like over the course of the last several hundred years, the politicians that are kind of running the show have gone far off course, and not to, fall into the world of politics, but I don't feel like it's set up the way that the founding fathers intended it to be. And I feel like, just based on my experience, I am definitely not anti-police at all. I am very anti-bad cop. And in my experience, I'm a pretty law-abiding guy. But even in a model of being a law-abiding guy, I've had run-ins with just overzealous and overbearing and almost, for lack of a better word, like Nazi type police officers. So in those experiences, and I don't honestly remember where I found this. I was probably just, down the rabbit hole one day on a video search, just goofing around, and I discovered something called First Amendment audits. And basically what that is it's people that, if you think about an audit, it's basically somebody going through and just checking, like testing or seeing what's there. That's what an audit is. So these people are basically checking and testing where their First Amendment rights are being respected versus catching flack from, police officers that basically walk up and say, you're not allowed to film here, give me your ID, when they've committed no crime and they've done nothing wrong. So we run the gambit here. It's basically, you have groups of people that are doing it, in my opinion, the right way, which is respectfully and not trying to cause conflict and not trying to get a reaction, not trying to trap anybody into, overreacting. But at the same time, you also have another context of people that are doing it the wrong way, where that's exactly what they're doing. They're pushing the limit to try to get a reaction. And then it's pretty easy to pick up right away, just watching the videos, who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong.
I'll tell you this, I've definitely noticed the people that oftentimes are pushing the limits tend to be the least educated in what their rights actually are.
And I think that's a fair statement. Typically the people that I feel are doing it right can, let's say in the example or the hypothetical that, law enforcement, you're standing in a public space on a public sidewalk where you are allowed to legally be. You pull out your camera, you start filming, let's say, like a courthouse. You are allowed to film a courthouse from a public sidewalk. The Supreme Court has ruled that your eyes cannot trespass. That also applies to video. So you can film anything you can see from a public space that you are legally allowed to be. Well, obviously, since the terrorist attacks that have happened in this country over the past couple decades, we have people are on high alert. Security staff are very curious about people with cameras, and so it's not uncommon, or I don't even think a bad thing, for security to exit a facility to find out why somebody is standing outside the facility on a public sidewalk filming the facility. It's an opportunity for police to do the right thing on camera. Sadly, we don't always get that experience. We have people doing the wrong thing on camera, and then it's on camera. But let's say in the hypothetical that an officer walks up and says, "What are you doing?" and says, "I'm filming." The auditor would respond, "I'm filming." And it pretty much goes one of two ways from there. Either you have a positive consensual interaction, or you have an officer basically trying to criminalize filming from a public space, which the Supreme Court has also ruled that you cannot make a legal activity suspicious just for the purpose of, IDing somebody or detaining them or whatever the case might be. So you can find lots of these videos online, specifically the ones that pop out at the top of my head as far as being great auditors. If you wanted to Google them, would be News Now Houston. He's pretty much the guy right now. He's got, I don't even remember how many followers on his social media, but he's retired military. He was in intelligence in military. And when an officer asks him for his ID, he will literally quote the statute, the failure to ID statute, word for word, because in most cases it's spun to be, if you don't give me your ID, you'll go to jail for failure to ID. Well, he's out of Texas, and the statute there, I've watched so many of his videos, I can almost quote it myself, which doesn't apply to me. I live in the state of Missouri, but the statute in Texas reads that you only have to give your ID if you've been lawfully arrested. It does not quote anything about being detained.
You actually, I want to make a comment on that.
Do it.
So I found out, and this was years ago, that you actually only need to be able to properly identify yourself. So you actually don't even have to carry a photo identification with you.
Sure, it varies from state to state. In most all states, you have to provide your full name, including your middle name, and your date of birth, and that's usually it.
Well,
most
see, now
states don't
I've
even
taken
require
that further, and like me personally, I know my ID number. I used to be really, really bad, and still am, with losing things like my ID.
Sure.
So I got to the point where I don't want to fucking carry it anymore, because I'm just losing it, and I got to spend money for new ones, and it gets ridiculous. So once I found out that the law actually specifies that I just need to be able to properly identify myself. Now, how you were saying in some states that just your name and birth date is sufficient, some states, it's not everywhere. But you know what is sufficient is if you do know your identification number and you're able to spit that out like it's nothing, you have properly identified yourself, because they can put that immediately into their database and pull up all your information, including your photo, and you have properly identified yourself. And I've had it work a couple times. I've been pulled over before, and they're like, "Let me see your driver's license," and I'm like, "I don't carry it," and they're like, "It's your law. It's the law for you to carry." I said, "No, it's the law for me to be able to properly identify myself. My ID number is blah 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 blah." And they're like, and I've even had them ask me, like, "How do you even remember that?" And actually, what's funny is I remember it because when I was a bartender, that's how I learned to remember it. Is being a bartender, they teach you the different ways to spot fake IDs. Certainly. And what a lot of people don't realize is with fake IDs, the numbers don't match up. The numbers, the numbers in your ID represent a lot of different things, including your last name, including your birth date. There's little things that are in that ID that specify that the rest of the information that's on that ID matches as well. So like my last name is Cunningham, so the very first thing in my ID is a C. And then there is some random numbers, but in the middle of those random numbers are numbers that coordinate directly to my date of birth. And a lot of people don't know this. When you get these fake IDs, most of the time they don't match up. So it's when I went to, I don't want to say bartending school, but I was trained very well in bartending. And it was one of the things that we were taught was to pay attention to the ID numbers. So like if you were ever questioned, like, I'm looking at this and I'm not 100% sure, this kid still looks underage to me, I know that I can look at those numbers real quick, look at the rest of the info, and if I don't see that matchup, I know already that it's a fake ID. So because of that, I ended up remembering my own ID number, and that's when I ended up being able to use that as my proper way to identify myself at any time without having to carry direct identification on me.
Yeah, and like you said, it varies. Laws vary state to state. So if that works in your state, kudos to you. It's easy to remember a phone number in most cases. I'm not sure why it would be any more difficult to remember your ID number as far as responding to the officer that was asking how you remember that. But I think, and I don't know the exact history of it, but I'm pretty sure this all started with a gentleman named Jeff Gray, who is I think he's out of Florida, and he's a professional photographer. He's a freelance news media photographer. So it was not uncommon for him to go to, let's say, outside of a courthouse, if there's a big trial that's happening and it's newsworthy, to stand on the sidewalk and just get like B-roll footage of people coming in and out the doors. And he was basically arrested and assaulted for doing nothing illegal, sued and won, and started an organization called Photography Is Not a Crime, which is PINAC for short, PINAC. And he's one of the best auditors out there, in my opinion. He's kind of the godfather of all this, but it took off. It just through social media and, through internet blogs and stuff, as far as, somebody being assaulted by an overzealous cop. That's pretty entertaining videos to most people, I would think. Especially when you have recourse, 2 years later in a court system where he received a pretty decent settlement based on the fact that they violated his First Amendment right, freedom of speech to film from a public space. And there's case law. There's also been updates so after September 11th, a lot of the federal facilities, such as like post offices and, courthouses and, other government agency facilities, they fell under the purview of the Department of Homeland Security when that was created. So DHS has issued memos going back to 2010 and even updated as recently as this year, 2018, explaining to those facilities, the managers of post offices and courthouses, et cetera, that here's the law. And even though you're doing your job, it's totally okay to come up and ask somebody, who they are and what they're doing. They're under no legal obligation to answer those questions. And 9 times out of 10, the auditors will answer those questions, not so much giving their name because they don't want to be identified, mostly because there are scenarios where people have been added to the terrorist watch list, which is unvetted, and there's almost no way of removing yourself from it once you're added, simply for taking photos from a public space, which is a lawful activity. So it's kind of blown up. It's really exploded over the last 2 years. It's something I've been paying attention to for a while. It's good to have those conversations, hours and hours of those conversations with interaction law enforcement on these officers or on video in my brain, just talking about the imprinting and putting that in your head, because the next time I do run afoul of an overzealous officer, I'm going to know how to verbally defend myself and not back myself in the corner. And it's completely a case-by-case basis. But it's just something I'm really interested in. And this all started with me saying that's pretty much what I go to YouTube for, is mixed martial arts information and these First Amendment audit videos. Just to conclude quickly, some people that jump out, if anybody's listening that wants to learn more about this or have somewhere to go to, research it, or look into some people that, in my opinion, are doing it the right way. Jeff Gray, News Now Houston, James Freeman, a gentleman that goes by the name of Nasty Nathaniel, who actually, he and I have spoken on social media before. He follows some of my social media and he has thousands of followers, and he just does it right. And the right way to do it is just be polite and don't try to, escalate the situation, and be firm in standing up for your rights if somebody's trying to violate them, but don't make it worse. Know when to acquiesce. If you're facing, arrest and going to jail and getting stuff in the car and everything, then maybe it's time to back down a little bit and just present your ID under duress. And if you're under threat of kidnapping and violence by a law enforcement officer for breaking no law, you should identify yourself, vocalize that you're doing it under duress, and you have legal recourse even in that regard to still say that your right to privacy was violated because you'd broken no law, so they had no entitlement to your ID. Now, again, we've covered this very state to state, and in some states, it is a stop an ID state. So for any reason whatsoever, a law enforcement officer can ask for your ID, like New York City comes to mind, and you have to provide it. But anyways, yeah, that's just something I'm interested in. There's actually a guy that here locally in my hometown that's been doing it, going to post offices, going to courthouses. He's run afoul of some, local sheriffs and law enforcement officers. And in my opinion, it's again, using the terminology as an audit, it's an opportunity for the officer to shine, to make their department look good. to not put it out there that perhaps this is how police officers, law enforcement officers in that area act. And there's great examples online of somebody doing this, and the police come out and they're completely professional and cordial, and that's the way they should be. Police officers work for us. They don't, a lot of sheriff's deputies will say that they work for the sheriff. Well, the sheriff is a duly elected official in your county. And so that person he works for the people, and their power comes from, the Constitution, and that's what they should be following. Most all officers take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and so that means they should be upholding your rights as well. I realize that there is a security aspect there that needs to be, paid attention to, and I definitely want them out there stopping the bad guys doing from bad things. Again, I'm not an anti-cop guy. I'm just anti-bad cop, and sadly, police abuse, in my opinion, it's kind of gone off the rails in this country, and there doesn't really seem to be any oversight or recourse for an officer even straight up murdering somebody. That thin blue line exists, and I don't think anybody would say against that for the most part. I mean, they stick up for each other, and they will cover up for each other. But again, that's the bad cops. There are good cops out there.
It's I find it interesting that we don't talk politics a lot. All right.
Yeah, we don't.
And that's been so for any of you watching, just so you know, this is not a politics show. But since we happen to be on the topic at the moment, I've got to ask.
Oh, here it comes.
Did you go vote for the midterms during the midterms here?
I did not. I am somewhere on the fence about wondering if voting even matters, especially in districts in which they use electronic voting machines.
So, I do understand people thinking that, oftentimes feeling like their vote doesn't matter. All right. Mm-hmm. I'm not one that agrees with that. All right. However, did you hear about Florida passing Amendment 4?
No, the only thing I heard about Florida in the midterms was Broward County is doing another recount.
So we voted and passed Amendment 4, which is going to allow felons to vote again.
That's good. I think that absolutely should
be
allowed.
Obviously, there are some limitations. Murder, sexual assault type stuff.
Sure.
Is still off the chain. But other than that, if you have fulfilled your sentence, whether that be through fines, imprisonment, probation, once you are finished with that, you can immediately go file and register to vote. And so, having said that, I also didn't vote during the midterms. And it's not because I didn't want to. There are plenty of people out there that don't know me, and I am a convicted felon. And I am so ecstatic that this passed that I'm going to be able to speak my mind at the polls. That I'll tell you that I don't agree with you on that. I do believe your voice matters. I think the only voice that's never heard is the one that doesn't speak, and that's my take on it. So we passed Amendment 4, and I'm very soon going to be able to vote again, and I'm really fucking excited about that.
And I'm excited for you. I think that's a great thing. I have friends, close friends, and family that are in the same boat. And I actually had a conversation with both a family member and a close friend prior to the midterms, asking very nonchalantly, "Are you going to vote?" And I said pretty much the same answer I gave you. Both of them responded to me having had their right taken away to vote. It's not something you really think about. It's not something that you think matters until you don't have the option to do it. And you realize how important it is. Yeah.
When you're not able to put your thoughts out there,
sure,
you start to realize how important it actually is, and it does make a difference. Does that mean that every time you vote that the person you selected is going to win? No. I mean, you watch American Idol, right? You pick a favorite, they don't always fucking win.
Sure.
It's just the way it goes. But that doesn't mean that nobody listened, and it doesn't mean that you didn't get to make your stand and take your part in the process.
I think just to clarify my position on that, I definitely have the apathy of non-voting, and at the same time, I don't think it's the kind of the congruent apathy that most people have, where they feel like, well, my one vote's not going to swing an election, so why vote? And then you have several million people doing that, and
Right.
that's these elections.
Yep.
My apathy lies more in, I guess, trusting the system, and that's kind of twofold. Number one is the actual event of the election, and what was it? Joseph Stalin is quoted as saying, "Those who vote decide nothing; those who count the votes decide everything." And there's so much voter fraud. There's so much, in my mind, distrust in these electronic voting machines that are being used. How easy it is to hack them. How easy it is to change a vote. And there's ample evidence out there of basically it not being secure. So that would be part one, as far as even if I did decide to vote, would my vote even count? Not as far as my one vote not mattering, but basically in the midst of the process, does it all work out that way? Will my vote be counted, or will it be counted accurately? I guess the second side of that is just looking at the system as it exists now. And I watch a lot of Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and I don't want to toe the line as far as what his opinions are, but he brings up a good point to say that the system in itself is antiquated. We used to have representation government based on the fact that if you lived on the West Coast, or any place outside of Washington, D.C. or New York City or Philadelphia or wherever the capital was at the time, it would take you months to ride horseback to get someplace to then have a say in something. So the idea of electing somebody to go speak for you made sense. It made sense to send somebody that may have been like a farmer or a doctor or whatever their profession was to Washington, D.C. to speak for your community as a member of your community. And then run through their term and turn around and have the term end and return to their normal life. Well, we don't have that anymore. We have career politicians. We have, legacies of families that are sending their children to basically take their seat, where somebody's held a senator seat or a congressional seat for 30 years, and now boom, their child's taking that same seat. And that happens. Also, the people that are politicians now, I feel like we rarely have an example of somebody from a community that can speak for the people in the community. We have people that are billionaires and hundreds over millionaires that are basically going and trying to make decisions for people in an inner city that are incredibly poor and have no options. And so it doesn't make much sense to me. It's Joe Rogan antiquates it as being where it's like a chimpanzee society and we're electing the head chimp of the tribe, and it just makes no sense. And I kind of agree with that in some sense. I feel like if representative government actually represented me, if you had somebody that was similar to my income status, my lifestyle and choices that I make, they're speaking for me, I'd be okay with that. But that's not the case. I don't feel like and I've met congressmen before and senators before, and I don't, they're great at smiling and shaking your hand and kissing your baby and telling you they'll do what you want them to do. They have your best interest in mind, but sadly, I feel like in most all cases, they have their interest in mind, typically to pad their bank accounts, and that's what matters. The only thing that never changes in an election is how power is consolidated and changing that system at all.
I need to grab my cord real quick for the laptop. I forgot to bring it with me. Give me just 1 second.
Do so. We'll see how fast Johnny can run here. So yeah, thanks for everybody that's watching right now. I show 10 people are investigating this. I'm not going to call it a trial run because we kind of already did a trial run, little sit-down chat. Johnny kind of mentioned it at the top of the show, but he and I met via his other show called Hots or Shots, which if you've not checked that out, I would suggest you do so. It's a show in which he pretty much torments himself by either drinking 10 shots of whiskey or eating 10 spicy hot wings or whatever food item they decide to put the hot sauce on, progressively getting hotter and hotter till the very end where it's some of the hottest hot sauces in the world. And I've seen him twist in agony and speak to new people that he's never met before, asking questions under those circumstances, which has to be difficult. But yeah, that's how we met, and we kind of kicked it off that night and have been talking ever since. It's been, I think that was at the beginning of the year in March or April, if I remember correctly. And decided after many hours of conversation that we kind of had a common kinship here as far as speaking to each other, and decided to just set up some cameras and mics and continue to do so for people listening that would be interested in this content.
Yeah, and there's no set guide to what this content is, by the way. If you're watching this, we have it set up. It says AMA, so you can ask us anything you want. If you want to suggest a topic for us for next week, do so. Drop it in the chat. It gives us a little bit of the opportunity to do a little bit of research on that topic. We're more than happy to touch base on basically anything you want to throw our way. Let's see. I think we did a pretty hefty throw at politics. I'm surprised it went there.
Well, let's
hold on.
Go ahead.
How about sports?
Okay.
You're because I've got sports shit going on, and I know you're.
Oh,
you're
I know
in,
you do.
Oh yeah. And I know that you've got you got some events that have been coming up. So do you want to touch base on the UFC scenario? What's going on over there, or at all? Or do you want to?
Lots are going on right now, to be honest with you. So I mean, just to rewind just a little bit, I played a little league baseball when I was a child. Played basketball for one season, but I've never really been into sports. I've been more of the creative side of things, or I like history, I like science. I've always been more of a book reader than I am an athlete. That said, I was born and raised in Nebraska, and the only thing that happens in Nebraska is Nebraska Cornhuskers football. It's not just a sport, it's a religion there. When they host a home game in Lincoln, Nebraska, where their stadium is, Memorial Stadium, I think it's an 80,000 seat stadium, and they have sold out every home game, I think, for like the past 20 or 30 years. During football season, on Saturdays, game day, when they have a home game, that stadium becomes the third largest city in the state. So it's a big deal. And I remember on game days, especially, Nebraska had a stint there in the early 90s where they were really well, and they won a couple bowl championships. And you would drive through a neighborhood and entire blocks were literally shut down, not under like a city ordinance where you had permission, but somebody would just basically set up roadblocks in the road. And then the next 30 houses, every single one of them would have their garage doors open. Every single one of them would be filled with people blaring the game from a television in the garage. And it was like a little city of football fans watching football. So I grew up in that model. I was very into football growing up. And then I remember watching UFC back when it kind of first debuted. I remember watching UFC 1 on video. I remember the, Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell rivalry, back at the early 2000s, mid 2000s, when all that was kicking off. But I never really got into it until I want to say it was late 2014. I kind of had a lot of free time on my hand based on some life changes, and my brother shot me a link one night saying, here, this great fight. And I recognized both the fighters that were fighting and said, yeah, I would watch that. And it was so damned exciting that it just hooked me. And I've been completely just in the deep end of mixed martial arts ever since then. It's kind of ruined all other sports for me, to be honest with you. This year, I have been watching a little NFL. My girlfriend is a huge Chicago Bears fan. So we've been watching the Bears games on Sundays. And it's fun. It's entertaining. I'm kind of back into it. But there's a huge difference in what a team sport is and the dynamic of that versus an individual sport. When a UFC fighter and a mixed martial arts fighter walks into a cage and they lock the door, it's just you and your opponent. You can't rely on your team for good or bad. If something goes wrong, it's on you. Versus, you might be a lineman and the running back drops the ball and now your team suffers, but it wasn't your fault. You were doing your job. So there's a different level of excitement, in my opinion. And I say all this knowing that you are a diehard particular one team football fan, and you can go ahead and pitch that here in a second.
I'm pretty much only a one sport fan at that.
Is that the case?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say, and it's weird, but I'm not going to say that, I've never caught myself watching a little bit of a pro golf tournament. When I very first moved to Florida, my first job was at a country club, and I had never golfed. And we were, as employees, we were allowed to golf for free. We were allowed to get free lessons.
Nice.
So I took a crack at golfing. And I realized the amount of skill that it actually takes to be good at that. So once in a great while, I will find myself just peeking in on some shit, and it's one of those like I can watch and literally go, oh my god, that was a fucking amazing shot, and know like how difficult of what that person just did. So, but yeah, I don't like watch golf. I don't follow the golfers or anything like that. I pretty much have zero interest in basketball. I was never allowed to play it as a kid. I still am short, so it just wasn't a sport for me. So I never got into basketball.
Gotcha.
Baseball is fucking boring, dude.
Yeah, it's boring.
So I never got into fucking baseball, but I do like football. I don't watch everybody. I watch the fucking New Orleans Saints.
I was going to say, let's just jump in here because it's a good place, and we'll come back to UFC. So your team is the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, yeah. I've got a giant fleur-de-lis tattooed on my ribcage. I mean...
How did that happen? How did you fall into that particular team? And I'm interested because I think I know the answer to this, just because that's the case in most all cases, but I'm always interested to know what made somebody select the team that they are so into, especially if it's a team that you're watching that's not in the state that you live in.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm not originally from Florida anyway, so I don't have any home turf in regards to that. But let me start by saying that when I got into the Saints was when I got into football. I was never into football. But I was living in New Orleans, and I worked at this restaurant called the Half Moon Cafe, which was directly across the street from the Full Moon Saloon. It was owned by the same guys. So you get your eats over here at the Half Moon and then head over to the Full Moon and get tanked. But anyways, the owners had season tickets to the Saints. And the Saints sucked then. So they just would never go to the games. And if we had the day off and it was a game day, they would let us have the tickets. So why would you... I mean, you don't really ever need a reason to get down and party in New Orleans. You know? But you could take more tools to do so. So it was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll go watch some football. Why not? It's live. And so I went, and I fell in love with it. And my introduction to falling in love with football was the New Orleans Saints, and I've been a Saints fan fucking ever since. Why would I go any other direction? That was where I fell in love with it. That's the team I fell in love with it, and that's all there is to that. But dude, I think we got a real fucking shot at the Super Bowl again this year.
I read an article the other day that said every one of their starting linemen was injured.
Yeah, that's all right. No worries there.
Didn't seem to faze you at all.
No. Did you read the article that we just fucking signed Des Bryant?
Yes, but I also saw that they think he tore his Achilles heel in practice.
Well, he would only be, in my opinion, a duck anyway. Who gives a fuck? He's a distraction. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the simple fact is, we've been lighting it up. Drew Brees is having a record-breaking year, and yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. But yeah, Des fucked himself up already, and just like that, he's already out. So
that's a shame.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's it's just one of those things, man. That's football. But we've been kicking ass without him. We beat the undefeated Rams last week. That was a fucking crazy intense game. But they're showing that they're putting the effort out there to really fucking. I think they want to get Breeze one more ring before he retires. That guy's really put the effort out there for that city, and everybody that lives there. And I think they're going to go out of their way to give him what he needs to get it done.
Well, he's pretty much been the face of that franchise for a while now.
Yeah. He's got 2 more years to go, and he's got after this season. He's got 2 years left. He's got a 2-year contract, and he'll finish his career right there. But I'd love watching that guy, man. The guy's amazing on the field.
He's fun to watch. I mean, he's a great quarterback. I know quite a bit about football, even though I've not watched it since I started watching UFC in the end of 2014. It makes sense to me that was what drew you into the Saints, just based on, how many people does the stadium hold there in New Orleans?
No, it's fucking huge. And by the way, when I lived there, it was the old stadium prior to Katrina.
Okay, so the Superdome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a different thing. Oh, I do want to remind you also, two things while I've got you here. One, in reference to the notification that we had got from Zoom.
Yes.
Keep in mind that we don't have to necessarily change the usage that we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. It's we can literally just start another room.
Oh, okay.
All right. So what we'll probably do as we progress throughout, the following weeks doing the show is it's like the ideal time for us to, because I think it's 40 minutes. It could be 30, but it's like 40 minutes before you'd have to refresh to a new room. And
gotcha.
What we'll do is we'll utilize that moment to take piss breaks and refill beer breaks and smoke breaks and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So I was thinking about that before we got started, and I was like, you know what? That's actually perfect. It gives us that reason to take that quick intermission and,
sure.
Stay fresh. Stay fresh for the show.
What was the other thing? The two things.
Oh, did I say two things? Oh, yes. I don't have immediate access to it. Can you... So, one thing that we really bombed on with our trial run a few weeks back is because nothing got pieced together. We don't have the Utopian IO mentioned. And the CEO of Utopian has been waiting.
That's definitely something we should talk about off air, but I think that we could probably remedy that.
Well, I don't think we need to talk about it off air. What we need to do is we need to pull up the Discord here. Can you scroll into the Discord? Can you find that?
Yeah, I think I could probably take care of that for you.
And if you can, then just copy paste that chunk. So, for any of you that are watching at the moment and are wondering what the fuck we're talking about at the moment, we're trying to handle everything that we do as a business. And, one of the ways to do that is to always try to get yourself sponsors or an advertising partner of some sort. And we're on a different social media site called steemit.com. And on Steemit, or built on top of that blockchain, one of these days, and it'll probably be in the relatively near future, we will discuss Steemit and explain to a lot of you what Steemit is. We're not going to do that today. Today was us saying hello, and myself and Giftedgaia. Oh, I just found it.
Okay.
I'm going to copy and paste it.
I actually just found it as well.
Okay, I'm doing copy real quick. I'm going to paste it again so it's back fresh. All right. Well, anyways, on this blockchain, there is a company called Utopian, and Utopian is very comparable to GitHub. It's for project creators and designers, and it's if anybody's familiar with GitHub, it utilizes GitHub, as a matter of fact, but it's built on top of blockchain technology. And we have spoken with them, and there is interest in them doing a level of sponsorship with us on the show. So I want to say that potentially today's show is brought to you in part by Utopian.io. What Utopian does is it empowers open source projects by providing a unified platform for communication, collaboration, social media content, and bounty exchange.
And To interject here, I mean, if you think about it, with the majority of open source projects owned and managed by companies and larger corporations, in that model, independent innovators have a hard time amassing the support and funds that they need to grow their projects and promote, them to a community.
Right. And by providing an all-in-one professional social media platform to the open source community, Utopian's able to bring together project owners, investors, and contributors from all fields to collaborate on one decentralized platform. It currently has nearly 6,000 contributors. It's a fantastic place to help bring your projects to fruition. So, I mean, if you're a programmer or even an artist looking to find someone that you can work on a video game with or anything along those lines, utopian.io is a place that you can go and not only help find some of those people, but find a community that has the opportunity to upvote the work that you've been doing and contributing there and actually earn money from doing so.
Exactly.
So yeah, Utopian.io, there's a good chance that that little plug that we just did might get us a little bit of sponsorship on the show, because we don't fuck around. We're here to make some money.
That is a goal.
I actually think that went really fucking well.
Yeah.
I thought that was smooth. That was slick. So that was my two things.
Okay. So what we were saying when you interjected your two thoughts there was, I was asking you how you got into the Saints. And that makes sense to me that it was environmentally spawned, so to speak. You walk into a room with 60,000 screaming, moderately intoxicating people, not unakin to, let's say, a gladiator Coliseum type situation. Everybody screaming for violence, and they all want the big hits, and, they want their team to beat the other team. That makes sense to me. I started that by saying there's pretty much two ways people get into, picking the team that they're into. And that would be one of them. Like, you have an experience and, there's that memory there and it clicked. And so that's your team. The other one would be how my girlfriend got into the Bears, which is pretty much you're born into it. Her father is a diehard Chicago fan. It's the reason I root for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, even though I don't really follow them anymore. And I hear they're doing terrible this season, but I was born into it. It was in the water where I grew up. So that makes sense to me. I think one of the things I like about mixed martial arts is, again, not having that team dynamic. Well, actually, let me backtrack just one point here. You like the Saints. You love Drew Brees. Who's the Saints' biggest rival, division rival?
Ooh. I don't think we have like a biggest division rival. I mean, there's 4 teams in every division.
Sure.
So I think realistically that changes every season based on the quality of the other teams that particular season. All right.
Gotcha.
Now, for me, I have a personal division rival.
Which is?
It's the Bucks, because I'm here in Florida.
I see.
So everybody's a big, the Bucks. And I'm like, what are you, fucking retarded? They suck. But anyways, I really only think they suck, well, because they're in my division, bro. I don't like any of the teams in our division.
So let me pitch something to you. Let me pitch a nightmare scenario to you.
For the record, though, I'm here in Florida, so I'm in Bucks country, and I'm a New Orleans Saints fan who's a direct opponent to the Bucks. Real quick, by the way, Nakatomi, I haven't. However, because it's a streaming platform as well, I really wouldn't be able to use it ever since I hit affiliate. So when you hit affiliate, it's in the guidelines there. You can't stream anywhere else anyway. I've heard of it. I've never used it though. I didn't want you to think I didn't see your question in chat. However, let's go to seeing. This is where I said I'm going back to the question in regards to the rival. I think it makes more sense to pay attention to that in regards to per season, and I would say this season that rival would be Carolina Panthers.
So let me pitch a scenario to you, and this is a nightmare scenario for you. You wake up tomorrow morning, you pop open whatever platform you get your sports news sources from, and the top headline is Drew Brees traded to Carolina Panthers.
Wouldn't happen.
In this hypothetical, it just did happen. Total
hypothetical?
Yes. So that breaks your heart in some sense.
Okay, so let's clear the air for this hypothetical. All right, for starters, if that happened. All right. You're not going to get rid of what currently, as far as records show, is the number one fucking quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Sure.
However, if for some reason you chose to, there would be a good reason for it.
Okay.
And very likely, you got to remember. Let me just put it this way: I would still remain a Saints fan, always. But I also would remain a Drew Brees fan. So what would end up happening is I would watch Carolina games as well, just to be able to continue to watch Drew Brees and his career. It's just like if you were a Brett Favre fan, hardcore Green Bay fan.
Sure.
Yeah, you were upset to see Brett Favre leave. But at the same time, you did understand that there was a future that your team was building and they needed to move forward. And it's actually a pretty decent comparison because he's rolling into that age line, because Drew Brees is not a spring chicken. But anyways,
sure.
But legitimate Brett Favre fans didn't stop being fans of Green Bay, but they didn't stop being fans of Brett Favre too. They would go and pop in and keep an eye and make sure he was still doing what Brett Favre would do. So I wouldn't become a Carolina fan. I would remain a fan and an admirer of Drew Brees, but I'm a Saints fan. So if we were playing each other, I'd be screaming, fucking sack that motherfucker,
Sure.
Break his neck.
Okay. Well, you're probably the exception, I would guess, in this hypothetical, because I think most people would immediately then, especially if it went to a rival team, would immediately then not be rooting for Drew Brees in this hypothetical. Most people would be screaming, sack that motherfucker, and that's just the way it would be.
But I would only do that if we were playing each other.
Sure. And that makes sense to me because you are, quote unquote, a true fan of both the franchise as well as him as a player and what he's done.
Right. I was a franchise fan before Drew Brees came into the franchise. But I am... I'm not somebody who believes that athletes, for the most part, mind you, should be looked up to as role models. I think the percentage of athletes that should be looked up to as role models is fucking minuscule to almost non-existent.
Sure.
But there are some, and I believe that he is one of them. And because of that, because of the way he carries himself and what he puts back out to the community and to the world, for that matter, to his children, the type of person he is, he deserves that respect and admiration regardless of where he plays.
Sure. And I like the words respect and admiration because that's going to kind of bring me full circle on what I'm saying here. I think most people who aren't, true fans, is I think the terminology you used, would immediately then hate Drew Brees. They'd be rooting against him, regardless of the fact that the week prior they were rooting for him and for all the years that he's been with the Saints organization. So in that model, and I'm pretty sure I picked this up from a comedian somewhere, but I don't remember where, so I can't source it for you. But it was basically somebody saying that people don't root for teams or for players on the team. They root for the jersey, because the second the player changes the jersey, especially if it's a rival jersey that they're now wearing, they hate them, despite loving them the week prior. And the only reason I bring that up is because that's part of the reason one of the things I like about mixed martial arts is without that team dynamic, it doesn't matter if a fighter changes gyms or even changes organizations and goes from the UFC to Bellator or ONE FC or any of the other ones. If you like a fighter, you tend to like that fighter no matter what happens in their career, win or lose, or whoever they're fighting, with, or whoever's in their corner or whatever the case might be. It's very more of like a laser personal focus on the athlete themselves, as opposed to a broader organization, as opposed to what the organization means for the city. It's more of just a laser focus. I feel like there's more responsibility on the shoulders of that person just to perform based on the accolades that they'll receive based on their performance.
Yeah, I'm not bad mouthing
football or team sports.
I'm not a fair weather fan of my team or players that I have appreciation for. Period.
Sure.
And again, a lot of that comes down to because, for the most part, a specific player I has no direct connection to me. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
It takes a lot, in my opinion, for an athlete to stand out in that type of category.
Sure.
So if you fell into that category for me, yeah, I'm gonna, but it's just like I liked coming back to Brett Favre. I never gave a fuck what team the guy played on. I'd watch Brett Favre play all the time.
Sure.
It's if I ever had a game that was on, and I knew Brett Favre was playing, I'm gonna go watch the motherfucker.
Gotcha.
I wasn't that way with Peyton Manning, but I loved Brett Favre. Something I just liked. I liked the old man going for it all. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was.
I hear you.
I think the big one that did it for me was the game that he played immediately following his dad's death, and he went fucking through for like 7 touchdowns. It was insane. I was like, dude, this guy's a beast. Meanwhile, he's like old as fuck. So, let's see. We did politics.
Yep.
We did sports.
Touched on a little bit of sports. Yep.
We started with a little bit of gaming, which was interesting also. We got our potential sponsor plug in there. We haven't really had any questions from the audience. You missed one earlier. We had pancakes or waffles.
That's a good question. I got to reach down and search my soul to get an answer there.
I don't think that there's a legitimate answer either way. I wouldn't
You don't think so?
I wouldn't eat one or the other every day for fucking breakfast. All right.
Yeah.
Do I like pancakes? Yeah, I do. Do I like waffles? Yeah, I fucking do. If I had to choose, like if I could only have one ever again, I'd probably go. See, it depends. Like with pancakes, do I get the variation? I'll go with waffles. I'll go with waffles because it's got the pockets. Yeah.
The pockets. Okay,
it's
so
I like the. I'll go with the pockets for syrup and the butter. But if you said you can only eat one of these every day for the rest of your life, I'd be like, yeah, fuck you, dude. I don't want either. I'll ride it out.
So I'm not sure. I'm kind of scrolling here. I'm not sure who asked that question.
I'm not sure either, but we only had a couple people in our chat today, so it's definitely going to either have been Fury, Nakatomi, Shadow Dog, or Cowboy. All of which, by the way, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody that's been watching, by the way. Even if you're lurking, that's great. You know how we do. We like it. It was Shadow Dog. Figures. I know. I saw. Yeah, that was the only straight question that I saw. But so I don't think
it's a hard one, man. You're twisting here. I can see it. There's agony in your eyes.
Let me put it this way: if a proper waffle has malt in the batter, okay. Now, that doesn't mean that every waffle has the proper malt in the batter. It doesn't mean that every place that you get a waffle has that. But a proper waffle has malt in it. I'll take a proper waffle over a fucking pancake any day. If we're talking about IHOP, for example, or Denny's, whatever, I'm gonna just go with it depends on how drunk I am. Yeah. Like what am I in the fucking mood for? But it's not. They're very, very similar. Most of the times the batter's basically identical. And if that's the case, why wouldn't you go for the fucking thing that has dips to fill up? It's like the same reason I like English muffins, dude. It's the nooks and crannies. I want the fucking puddles of stuff. So, I dig the waffles.
Going with waffles, huh? Is that your final answer?
I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with waffles. There's other reasons too. Like, it gets a crispiness to a waffle that allows for a specific level of toppings to not immediately destroy the crunchiness of that waffle, that little bit of crispness. Whereas if you dump a bunch of strawberries and shit on top of pancakes, not that still doesn't taste good, it kind of obliterates. It becomes very soggy very quickly.
Pancake soup.
But right, exactly. Whereas a waffle holds that crispiness, and if you eat it fast enough, then you should be good, and it's not going to turn into a soggy mush.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go with waffles. That's my final answer.
All right. Well,
we deal with the fucking important stuff here.
Well, Shadow Dog 21, I'm glad you asked that question because it's, issues like this that keep me awake at night, and we might as well just get it out there in the open. I guess I want to start by just commenting on how great of a combination of two words is the wording proper waffle. I mean, I used to be in a rock band back in the day, and maybe I need to start another one just so I can name it Proper Waffle. Maybe even DJ Proper Waffle. That works to me too. But
MC
to
Proper
me,
Waffle.
MC Proper Waffle. I love it. To me, I'm impartial to both the pancake versus waffle argument. I would view both of those as basically a syrup delivery system. And let's be honest, that's what we're here to talk about, is just how good the syrup is. I mean, if it was socially acceptable, we'd drink it. But we can't, so we have to create this food type item that is a plate of some sort that then we're going to pour all the syrup on and just go with that route. So in the model that we're looking to have the most effective amount of syrup delivered to our bodies in the most proper way, I like what Johnny said. He hit the nail on the head as far as my viewpoint on this issue. The waffle offers the pockets. The pockets hold more syrup, especially if you get a nice crispy waffle and it holds its consistency like he was saying. So I agree. I got to go with waffles. And I guess that's just a good example of why we named the show Like Minds.
You know what would be a much harder fucking choice for me to make? Would be bagels or English muffins.
That's an easy choice for me, my friend.
See, it's not for me, and here's the reason why. And it comes right back to what we just discussed with the waffles. All right, English muffins have nooks and crannies.
They do.
Very specific nooks and crannies. Okay, and I love the nooks almost as much as I love the crannies. However, the plethora of variety available to me in a bagel is just thinking about the different types of bagels I can have. Just so that would be a tough one for me, because I don't want to give up the nooks or the crannies, but I also don't want to. My wife recently just bought me. It was like a Harvest Grain. What was that fucking bagel you got? I had sunflower seeds and just all kinds of stuff in it. It was so fucking good. All right, like I can slam down some fucking bagels, like there's no tomorrow. So that would be my tough one. I want to be able to just choose between. Like, I don't know, dude. That would be really fucking hard for me.
It's an easy choice for me. I've never liked English muffins.
Really?
Anything that's too dry of a bread, like even biscuits for like a biscuits and gravy, I don't like it.
If you're eating a dry fucking English muffin, you're doing it wrong, dude.
Well, I guess probably
the nooks and crannies aren't for air, bro.
No, I hear you. I mean, and maybe it's just that somewhere in my childhood I decided I didn't like them, and so therefore I haven't gone back and reevaluated that choice. But I'm team bagel all day.
So we've got another question from Shadow Dog, and this one's
I see it.
It doesn't make any sense realistically. I think you meant to say beer or liquor. Because it just says beer or alcohol.
Yes.
And I'm I can't answer stupid questions, Shadow.
We can try.
I mean, I can sort of try. We did. We went pancakes and waffles. We went for it. I appreciate the effort here, but come on. This one, I think here, I'm pretty sure he meant beer or liquor.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, let's just pretend that's the question he asked.
This is one where we each have a different answer here.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to guess your answer and you're going to guess mine.
Yeah.
We know each other that well.
Right. So Guy is a fucking beer hound. All right.
I enjoy that craft beer.
Right. Now I also enjoy craft beer. I don't want to pretend that I don't. I do like a good beer. But I'm a liquor guy. 100%. All day long. Gaia is absolutely a beer guy. I am absolutely a liquor guy. However, we both know that we'll swing on the other side of the fence on that, no problem. As far as what we prefer, no. We each know what we prefer there. My big thing with beer, just so you know, it just really kind of came with age more than anything. It takes age and alcoholism, because it takes a lot more beer for me to get skunked than it does liquor. And beer also, because of that, you know what I mean? That's a lot more fluid I'm putting into me. It makes me feel more bloated and shit like that. Sure. Whereas I definitely did not have that when I was younger. I didn't care. I notice it more as I get older.
Yeah.
And that's where I started to stray away. You know, it was just like, wow, I can drink, you know, in comparison, this much beer is going to have the same effect as this much liquor.
Yes.
And that's a whole fucking lot less booze for me. And like, not booze, just fluid intake, I guess, is what I'm getting at. You know, it's a lot less of what I'm putting into me. You know, it's just like hots or shots. 10 beers wouldn't be anywhere near as fucking interesting as 10 fucking shots of bourbon.
Depending on the beer, but I see your point.
Yeah, you know. It'd be a much slower process. There'd be a lot of burping involved, I'm sure.
That's part of the procedure, I would guess. I'm definitely team craft beer. I don't drink any liquor except for whiskey. I like whiskey. I love the taste of it. There's a multitude of different varieties out there where there's a pretty wide range of different flavors you can get from whiskey. But if I'm drinking craft beer, and I don't drink to get skunked. I drink because I like the taste of things. There's so many options on craft beer, and this is a new hobby that I just picked up here in the last few years.
There's a difference between us two. I drink to get skunked.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I drink for the flavor of it.
I want to get my fucking swerve on.
There you go.
I just don't see the point otherwise, you know.
Yeah, and let's look at, okay, so you had commented on, you know, how little, you know, alcohol or liquor it takes to drink versus beer in order to achieve your goal of getting skunked. Let's look at that same coin, but the different side. Let's say I go out to lunch and I'm enjoying a fine lunch somewhere, and I decide, you know what, I'm going to have a drink with lunch today. You know, you look over at the taps, you see they've got 6 great options. You've had 4 of them, but you've not tried those other 2, and you've heard about them, and you're just wondering how that's going to go. Well, I can get those 2 craft beers and drink them with my lunch and turn around and go right back to whatever I'm doing that day, whether it be work or anything creative, productive wise. I could not do that with whiskey without it affecting my performance. Whiskey time is time to shut down, cut loose, that sort of model. So that's another reason why I like the craft beer option. It doesn't really affect me as much, and I still get that enjoyment out of it, of having that, you know, flavor profile on my palate.
Well, that goes back to the fact that you'll drink to not get intoxicated. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
I don't want one fucking beer.
And 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 3, 3 leads to
12.
a headache.
You know?
Yeah. So
I'm Irish. I like to fuck. If I'm gonna drink, I like to drink.
I feel you. I'm predominantly Irish myself.
I don't drink that often anymore for that reason, because I'll put it the fuck out. I'll knock it down. But that's why, you know. So, like, if I went out to eat, for example, in the scenario you just made, I wouldn't have either. In that case, I would have myself. I would hope that they had like a really good craft iced tea of some sort, and I would go that route. I do have a flavor palette that I enjoy, which is why I do appreciate craft beer. Also, I just don't. I drink to get the swerve on. That's my let's get sauced, just like it says on the hots or shots.
Sure.
I like I like to get fucked up, dude. So.
Well, I've already made this determination, and I haven't vocalized it yet, so this is going to be news to you. But when Mrs. Clearwater has that baby, I'm going to go ahead and probably send you guys some local selections here, just out of local breweries. And,
I don't know if she's listening.
Oh, that's fine. You can pass it along.
Well, I know she's close. She was watching earlier. I don't know if she's listening, but she'll be very happy to hear that.
I remember one specifically that you guys liked when you passed through my neck of the woods, and then we have some other options that have popped up since your visit. And I'd like to reacquaint you with the joys of the local Missouri brewery. We actually have a pretty legit craft beer game going on here, even in my hometown. And I've been to a lot of
almost
breweries.
Considered drinking today for this.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's early enough for me here that coffee was my choice of beverage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm drinking coffee, but I considered it. It's just we started earlier than we did when we did our test run the first time, but the show was, I think it makes sense to me that we kind of stick to this general timeline that we're looking at. maybe perhaps like 1 hour later. Like maybe we'll start at like 11. You know, once we get very consistent with this, we'll kind of find that little spot. But it's got to be in that zone that allows us to get fucking drinking. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
so we got to be able to drink a little bit on this show. It doesn't have to be every week. But had I not already gotten my fulfillment of coffee, you know, because I hadn't gotten my fulfillment of coffee before today's show started, because I had to, you know, get some different stuff set up. You know, all my streaming gear and everything was in the other room for the PlayStation, and you know, it's all moved right here right now, and I had to, you know, make this fucking super not fancy layover. Although I'm happy with it, I think it looks pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'm digging it. But I had to do all that this morning, so while I was doing that, I really didn't get my fulfillment of coffee. Had all this type of stuff been set up, because I mean, I never even used Streamlabs OBS. This is the first time using it today. It's very, very, very much just like OBS is, by the way. I mean, it's built off of OBS. So it didn't really take too long to figure out. But I had to go look and find, like, what are the right pieces for what we're doing, and, you know, am I okay with this, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm not, this works for me. I don't know if I'm fully in love with it, but it does work for me.
Yeah, I like it.
For the time being, anyway. One of the things that I know that we'll get better at as we progress is bringing some more production value into this. You know, I know I'm gonna want an animated sequence for the logo intro before the show starts. I'll have to call up my buddy Kurt and get some music written for us. Little jingle. You know.
I might be able to put something together.
I know, yeah, don't get me wrong. I know either one of us could put something together. I just want to, you know, there's little things that we can definitely do that will improve this, and hopefully we'll be able to keep growing. I can't wait to be able to have a beer. One more month, you kiss it. I can't wait to be able to have a beer. Very nice. You know what we didn't pull off today?
What's that?
I didn't get any more followers. I was hoping we were gonna hit one more. I'm so
Well, I think
close,
that
man. I need 7
I mean,
more.
we're live on Twitch, and Twitch is predominantly a gaming community. So maybe we should just kind of find an ending to the show, but do so.
I don't know about that. To be fair, I mean,
okay.
This category that we happen to be in, just chatting, and I'm not sure if this is necessarily the right category for us. I think we fall right in between the category of just chatting and podcast talk show. You know, we're right in that mix, and I wasn't sure which one to go for, so I really just looked for what had the most amount of people watching at that time, which was just chatting. And I mean, even though this is a talk show podcast, we are just chatting, so
Sure.
not 100% sure which way to go with that, but I really was fucking hoping we could have got, you know, an extra follower out of it. But no, it had the pretty good amount of fucking people on that category, and both talk shows and podcasts, as well as just chatting. And I'll go look right now. Okay, so so if you click on the browse tab, by the way, the browse tab will show you the number one trending. So number 1 is League of Legends, number 2 is Fortnite, number 3 is Warframe, number 4 is just chatting.
I see that.
All right. But then if you scroll just a little bit further down, talk shows and podcasts is coming in right after Red Dead Redemption 2.
I see that.
So that is what? 1, 2, 3. Just chatting is 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So both categories are in the fucking top 20. As a matter of fact, both of them are outgunning Dead by Daylight at the moment.
Yeah.
The only reason that's happening, though, is because JonnyClearwater's not playing Dead by Daylight right now.
Is that the case?
Yeah, we would push that right back up immediately. But
So So let's go ahead and, I'm not trying to end the show on this sentence, but I mean, let's go ahead and kind of close the show, but let's do so with a little bit more game talk because I feel that's more appropriate for, the platform audience that we have here as far as trying to get you more followers. Let's kind of.
Oh no, I
focus on
want.
the content.
I will. No. We can do that, but not for the sake of more followers. The majority of people that stepped in to watch, they're gone. I think I'm seeing, a refreshment here, a refreshed page, and at one point we were doing pretty good. I think we got up to like 10, 12. I'll be able to check after the stream's over. That's come back down now.
Sure.
But I mean, we've been running for a while too, so
Yeah.
it's one of those. We're not gonna pull the follower now. If we didn't get it yet, we're not gonna get it right now either.
Sure.
But I think let me see real quick. Let me pull open chat again. Yeah, even chat. So Nakatami, who was here earlier, she just started streaming Dead by Daylight, which means very, very likely Cowboy and Shadow have jumped on with her.
Sure.
Yeah, because we all play together. And I just seen her pop up that she's streaming Dead by Daylight. So very likely that's where they just all bounced off to. But yeah, I think
I know what you'll
but
be
I was
doing
hoping
here.
I was hoping that they were still here so we could ask what their thoughts were in regards to the first crack we took at this. But so you wanted to go back and touch on gaming before we wrap this out. What'd you want to go with?
Well, we talked a little bit about Dead by Daylight. I mean, that's been your world for the past month. Have you ever heard of Project Stream?
No.
So I don't remember where it was. It was probably on Reddit. Somewhere along the way here a month or so ago, 2 months ago, I basically entered my name into a pool of trying to get into a beta of something called Project Stream. And Project Stream's pretty interesting. And you as a game developer, you might be interested in this. It's as opposed to you downloading the game onto your system, it's basically a technology in which, and I want to say it's powered through Google if I remember correctly, but the game is hosted elsewhere. The game files, the exe, all of that is somewhere else, and you are basically playing through a streamcast without having those files on your computer, which of course you need to have adequate internet to run it. But they had some contest, I guess is the right terminology, for people to join an open beta, and they were only giving out so many keys, and there was hundreds of thousands of people that applied, and somehow I won one. And I've never really won anything in my life, so I won a key to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Okay. They released it to me, I want to say like the week after the game released, and I have unlimited amount of playtime through January 15th, in which case they'll close it, and then I'm not allowed to play anymore. So the little bit of time I've had free to, play video games when I feel like it, that's where I've been, is in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Are you playing that on console? No, of course not. Never mind.
Nope, I'm a PC gamer. And it's a gorgeous game. I mean, I don't think it's as good as The Witcher 3, which is my personal top video game of all time as far as the environment. I really like single player open world sandbox games. I like, if I'm playing video games, typically to step out of the real world and just put my mind someplace else for relaxation, recreation, that kind of thing. So Assassin's Creed Odyssey is good. I like the franchise. I really liked Origins, which was kind of their revision for Assassin's Creed that came out a few years ago, the Assassin's Creed Egypt one. Odyssey takes place in ancient Greece, and they've re-implemented water and boat play in that game, which was, of course, kind of the driving force behind Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 4.
Something else just happened.
Uh-oh. We got things happening.
Says, Nakatomi's hosting. Nakatomi, I just saw you were streaming. What is going on over there?
Nobody knows.
Man.
Yeah, Project Stream, look that up. I really like the idea of being able to play a video game and not have the files on my computer and save me that hard drive space. My internet is adequate enough to do so. However, the one thing I guess if I had a problem with it would be they don't really give you a lot of options to do video setting adjustments. I think the only option I have is brightness. When they do a test on my computer to see, specifically how my computer can handle the game. My graphics card is several generations back, and so they always basically try to say, well, you could run it, but it's going to be on low. However, every game I played, I can turn it all the way up almost, either to ultimate or at least very high. And I don't really notice much of a frame drop. I mean, it might be down to 30 frames a second or something. But that's typically what most console games are. It's not usually 60 frames a second. So I'll bounce between 30 and 60, depending on how heavy the load is in that scene of the game. But yeah, I think it's a really cool concept. I'd like to see a lot more games like that. I'd love to pay for games that then I don't have to download and I can just stream in and play them. And it's working a lot smoother than I thought it was going to. I kind of had trepidation about how my internet would handle it, or if my girlfriend starts watching Netflix in the other room, how it's going to affect it. And I really haven't noticed much performance lag at all. I just wish they'd give me, and I realize they do a search on your computer prior to see how they think you're going to handle it, and then they load the stream that they think that your PC is adequate, would work the best on. But I wish they'd give you a little more options there, because I feel like I could get away with having some higher settings going. But it's a pretty cool thing. I don't know how you as a developer feel about that, as far as somebody buying your game but not actually having your game.
Dude, I don't. If they're buying the game and they don't have it, I don't give a fuck. They bought it.
Okay. There you go.
Like, let's be real here.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really how to sway that any other way. But let's stick, since we're back on gaming, and we did mention earlier that currently I've been playing the fuck out of Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight is made by Behavior Games, and Behavior, they've got a new game coming out. Some people already have access to it. It is technically kind of still in a beta, and I've been watching I've been watching a streamer that I watch pretty regularly, Swapbee TV, and it's called Death Garden, all right, and it's made by the same guys that have done Dead by Daylight. There's definitely some comparison there. It's a 4v1, just like Dead by Daylight is currently, mind you. It is still beta, but it looks pretty sweet. The premise is it kind of makes me think of that that movie series that came out, the Maze Runner or some shit like that. It kind of makes me feel like a little mix off that. So it's called Death Garden, and you have four players that are trying to race through a death garden while a hunter is trying to kill everybody. That's the general premise. I've been watching some gameplay of it, and I'm looking forward to it getting polished and completed. And I could definitely foresee moving slowly but surely from Dead by Daylight over to that, to the new project by the same company that made Dead by Daylight. But if you haven't seen any of that, take a sneak peek at that. How about movies, man? Have you seen any good movies lately?
It's funny you say that. Per your recommendation, I watched Christopher Robin, which is Disney's live-action Winnie the Pooh movie. What'd
you think?
I really, really liked it. I liked it more than I thought I was going to. And in fact, my girlfriend and I watched it 2 nights ago, just by ourselves. And then last night we had some family over, some children over, and so we actually watched it again. I watched it 2 nights in a row, and it's really good.
I thought it was good. It was very feel good.
Yes.
I loved the way they made the characters look.
That's really what did it for me. When I first saw Pooh, I was like, I don't know if that's the classic Pooh, but it's really like the original Pooh.
Right. When I first saw Tigger, I was wait a second, he looks really old.
Like, yeah, Tigger? He wasn't as vibrant orange.
Right. But he was very vibrant in personality still.
Yes.
Eeyore looked amazing. Yeah. I loved it. I loved the way they made these characters that we grew up with, how they looked, because I wasn't sure how that was going to feel, and because I think that was a big maker for the film. But yeah, I did watch it recently also, and recommended you to check it out.
I would say if you like the movie Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman back in the day, you might like this movie. It's pretty much the same premise, as far as Christopher Robin is now grown up and then re-enters the world of Pooh as an adult and has to learn how to be a child again in some sense.
Well, technically, Pooh enters the adult world of Christopher Robin first.
No spoilers, buddy.
Well, I come on. I mean, you know, but it does go both ways. They both enter each other's world. I loved it, dude. I loved it. I thought it was great.
There's a lot of wisdom there. I mean, the characters all play the roles that we all know them to play. They all had the same personality, but there's just something about Pooh that it's almost like a Zen master thing going on in there under the surface. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, for sure. I loved how much more depressing Eeyore was in this than I was familiar with.
Sure.
He was fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. How about I mean, anything else? Have you seen anything else lately that was good?
I don't really watch a lot of movies, man. If I have free time to watch something, I'm typically, going deep on YouTube or some other source.
I do the late night horror movies, man.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, last night I found out because I picked up Jonathan on the ride home. Don't even know how. Oh, I know what it was. He recently watched The House with the Clock on the Wall, I think it's called, the new Jack Black movie. Which he said was pretty good, actually. And he mentioned that it was directed by Eli Roth, who's known for horror films.
Sure.
And that's how we got into the conversation. And I found out that Jonathan had never seen Hostel. So yeah, we watched Hostel last night, 1 and 2. I fell asleep somewhere through 2. I'm sure he finished it because I passed out. He didn't. But yeah, I do that. Oh, that's a fucking follow. I heard. That's a follow.
94.
Welcome. P.
What a great name.
Well, it's probably a multiple of Pepe's. But it's Pepe.
Gotcha.
Thanks
almost
for the follow.
as good as proper waffle. Almost. 6
fucking more followers, and I hit 100.
You're right there, buddy.
I'm getting it, man. I'm getting it. But I do want to say real quick though.
Yeah.
P. Thanks for being here. Don't know if you've been lurking and just hit the follow now, or if you're just joining. If you are just joining, I'm sorry to tell you that we're really close to wrapping up for today.
We're getting there.
This is the very first episode of Like Minds, and we will be back next weekend. For those of you that have been here, Cowboy, Shadow, Nakatami, Fury, if you're still here, any of the people that I know jumped in chat. We had some lurkers too. Just curious, do you got any feedback for us at all? What do you think? How do you feel that this first episode went? I'd love to know what you guys think. And while I'm waiting for somebody to chime in, let's go back to what we were talking about. So we
were talking about movies, and
yeah.
I actually, since you have been talking, there was one. I caught the tail end of probably the last half of the new Adam Sandler stand-up special on Netflix.
Okay.
I remember watching Adam Sandler growing up, and Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, but somewhere along the lines, I fell off of caring about him or his comedy. I feel like after so many movies of pretty much the same thing, it kind of got boring to me. Oops, sorry about that. So I was going to Netflix to see if I can find what it was called. I think it's called 100% Pure or something like that. I remember it has 100% as the first word in the title, but it was phenomenal. It was so good. And it's still very much Adam Sandler, but he's older now. I think he's in his early 50s. And it's just, he nailed it. I mean, there was a lot of musical performances, which of course he had his musical performances on Saturday Night Live, and he had his comedy albums.
Slopper Joe.
Exactly. The very end of the special, he does a song that is a tribute to Chris Farley. And it was moving. It was so good.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, they were really close. They were really good. Really, really close.
Yep. So I would definitely recommend that to anybody that...
It's on my queue.
Good. If you have a childhood memory of enjoying his early movies, or, just in general, if you like stand-up comedy, or if you ever watched Saturday Night Live back in its prime in the early 90s or whatever, that is definitely something that should be on your radar.
Yeah. Very, very, very cool. Let's see. I'll throw one out there. I watched... So, again, we already said, I watch fucking a lot of fucking horror films. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And came across one the other day. Thought I'd give it a shot. Turned out to be fucking great. I loved it. It's called Murder Party. All right. And what it was at the same time I'm creating a closing screen for us, which will be ideal to use once we have a fucking jingle also. But anyways, the whole premise, there's like two things going on here. For starters, you have some kids that I don't mean kids, but they're kids to me. Some kids that, hold on 1 second, I gotta hit invisible. There we go.
Oh boy,
I fixed
you just messed up your Twitch stream.
No, I got it.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
I had to put it in and then make it invisible.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So anyways, these kids, there's three of them. It's two guys and a girl, and they're like house robbers. They're burglars for the most part, you know, just trying to make their way kind of thing. And you find out that the one guy and the girl are actually a couple, and the girl's pregnant. Blah 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 blah. The other character, there's an issue with his father and some gambling issues, and he needs to come up with a lot of money quickly, or his dad's gonna get fucking killed, and blah 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 blah. So they decide to rob this house that it was considered a pretty big job for them, and they weren't even going to do it because of that. And you know, then once the kid realized the situation that his dad was in, and you know, blah 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 blah. All right, so they decide to rob this house, and they have access to the house because the girl does work for the family, apparently, in some way, shape, or form. I don't want to give too. Well,
sure.
No, I don't care. Give it, because most of you will probably never fucking watch this anyway. Let's be honest here. So she's like hired help for this family. This family's like rich, snobby fucks. All right, and they happen that night to be having a dinner party of some sort. And what their plan is they're going to do the burglarizing during the middle of this dinner party. The girl has access. She's going to be like one of their servants for the night, and she brings her two friends, and she says that the other two people that work for her company are sick, and that these are the people filling in. That's the layout. So then you start to meet everybody at this fucking dinner party, and it gets weird really fucking quickly. And you're trying. It took me a hot minute to try to figure out what approach they were taking. But what it is this evening that everybody's come together for dinner is a celebration. And what it was it's kind of like an AA meeting where they're celebrating their length of time of sobriety. Like, however, what they're celebrating their sobriety from is murder.
Oh.
They're all murderers. They're all psychopaths. And they have been sober from killing, and they're celebrating this moment. And let's just say they all fall off the wagon. Let's just go with that. We'll just start. We'll just leave it at that. From that point, they all fall off the wagon. The fucking sobriety days are over. As soon as they, yeah, it was actually really fucking good. I really enjoyed it. Never heard of it. Even just reading the title, I was like, wow, this is probably gonna be fucking stupid. No, yeah. It was fucking great. It was a murder party. I had a great time with it, man. Absolutely. So that's I think that's where we kick it. I think we kick it.
Yeah, that's a good spot. We covered sports, we covered politics, we covered gaming, we covered movies, we covered pancakes and waffles.
We did. We
hit all the hard topics.
We talked beer and liquor.
Yes, we did.
Almost ran 2 hours. Matter of fact, if we hit 10 more minutes. It's 2 hours we hit, which I definitely think is a pretty good shot. I feel like we can fill 10 more minutes, though, huh?
10 minutes. Okay, so this goes back to pretty much the beginning of the cast, but as far as the midterms go, one of the major things that passed here in my state is medicinal marijuana.
Oh, I wanted, I got distracted because of the voting thing, and I wanted to mention that there were a handful of fucking states that passed medicinal, and then there was a small handful that passed recreational also, which was very impressive. I did not think that we would, as a country, state by state, mind you, not on a federal level, really start moving this fast into it. I wonder, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, I wonder if Canada legalizing had any effect on that. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know specifically how much Canada and I believe Mexico both going green had an effect on the U.S. I feel like, if anything, the thing that's had more of an effect is YouTube videos of children with epilepsy that are on 50 different
CBD
medications
oils and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then with 2 treatments of CBD, their seizures stop, or at least they're more manageable. I think those images probably had more of an effect.
In the regards to medicinal, I would agree. But what are your thoughts in regards to it getting passed on a recreational level?
I mean, my personal opinion on that is the government should stay out of your life in most all scenarios. So I don't, should heroin be illegal? Yes. Should marijuana be illegal? In my opinion, no. Those are 2 different things with a big space in between them as far as what effect they have on you as a person as well as your community. But
sadly, they're even considered equal in the eyes of the DEA.
Yeah, as far as everything being Schedule 1.
That right there is what's fucking nuts to me. I have another question I want to throw on top of this too.
Sure.
With as many states that keep making this move, this
32
progressive move, are the feds going to come on board at some point here, or what? Are they going to tell 50 states fuck off?
Well, that's an interesting question.
It's already the majority. That's what I mean. Like, at what point here do the feds go, all right, fuck it, we lost?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, I think it's like 31 or 32 states now have some derivative of either rec or medicinal legislation passed. I predominantly live in a state that's very, very red. I mean, if you step outside Kansas City or St. Louis, it's a red state. So I'm not surprised that it passed per se. They had some other things that went through a few elections ago, several years ago, like 2012-ish, and it did not pass. It passed with an overwhelming majority. It was almost 70-30 here in this state. The specific amendment that passed is, they had 3 different amendments on the ballot that would have made it legal in some sense. And the one that passed, in my opinion, is the best option. And it's the one that, I think there's a 4% tax on sales that goes specifically to veterans care, which I think we need more of. And they also, it's pretty lax in what they can do. It's even up to growing at home. Like, you can have plants now if you have a medicinal card. So I think that's good. The question being, at what point do the feds fall in line with the states? I don't know. I mean, we're supposed to live in a democracy with a represented government. So if more than half the country, says this is what we want based off ballot initiative, based off a direct vote by the people, at what point do, the federal government, do they fall in line with the people that they're supposed to be representing? It's a pretty detailed conversation as to how it became illegal and why it's retained its illegal status for this long. I would say mostly at the behest of the drug companies would be my guess. So I don't know. I mean, the system in itself, as long as the drug companies have such a powerful lobby in the nation's capital, I don't know that the federal government will ever fall in line with what the people want, unless you get somebody that's like a very progressive president that has the option of executive order that can, with the swipe of a pen.
Let me ask you this: why isn't Big Pharma trying to get on board with it?
They're trying to get on board with it in a manner in which they monopolize it, though.
And I mean, completely understandable. Would you expect any less of them? But my point is like they've been the biggest lobbyists against it
Sure.
at this point. And what I don't understand is why don't they just recognize the fucking money there and just go, well, we could just take this over too. I mean, like I don't obviously, do we want them to do? We do and we don't. You know what I mean? Like, do you want them to monopolize? No,
Sure.
not technically. But the second they decide that, hey, we're gonna fucking kill it, that's it. We get that legalization.
It's a complex issue, and I'm in no regards an expert on the topic. I would guess, if I had to answer that question right here, right now, the reason would be is, if I need a medicine to treat, I don't know, let's say I have cancer and I need a series of chemo meds. Well, I can't make that myself. I have to go through the distributor to get it. However, marijuana is a plant. I can grow that myself. So I feel like that is the biggest objection right now, is just how can they get on board with something that people can then just bypass them to get themselves?
Oh, because you can make certain regulations in regards to, and I'm just shooting in the dark here.
Yeah, this is all hypothetical.
But you could probably get certain regulations passed through that say, at home purposing is only allowed to reach a certain level of potency, for example.
Sure.
All right, which then allows Big Pharma to be anything above that.
Sure.
All right, so they can, or those types of approaches. Meanwhile, of course, even though, everybody that's into pot wants to find a medicinal fucking way to get a medicinal license and whatnot, but there are 100% straight legitimate benefits to some of marijuana in regards to the medical industry. And you have a lot of these, like you mentioned, the kids dealing with seizures and stuff. They're not smoking joints. They're taking these CBD oils and things like that. And it's that approach also, where Big Pharma can be like, hey, you're not allowed to produce CBD oils. You want to grow pot for your own recreational use. That's fine and dandy. You're still going to obviously have laws against age restrictions on that. And they step into the realm of that huge medicinal side of things that eliminates the recreational side of it. Because, like I said, I'm going to try to find a way to be able to use it medicinally. Insomnia, anxiety, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But it's not because I not necessarily don't have those problems, but that's the excuse I'm going to look for to be able to smoke recreationally. Is my point. But when you have these kids that are getting these benefits from it for seizures and all these other legitimate issues.
Sure.
Like I said, they're not smoking fucking joints, and that's where Big Pharma could step in and handle that side of the scenario. Handle just 100% the medicinal angle. But yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand why the examples that have been already put out there, they're not seeing the millions and millions and millions of dollars that they could be making.
Oh yeah.
I'm disappointed with that. Like, I would figure they would already be all over trying to monopolize it. I don't understand why they haven't. I think it would change everything quickly. But in the long run, so you think that if 50 states all have decided and Big Pharma still isn't on board and the lobbyists push, that the feds will never change? They're going to literally at that point say that all your state laws are absolutely absurd and we don't give a fuck anymore? Like, I don't...
I mean, to me, that falls back under the 10th Amendment, where all powers not delegated to the federal government are relegated to the states. And I feel like there's definitely been some federal overreach in this particular conversation. Why would we accept legislators and law enforcement entities who have no medical background making medical policy, which goes against people in the medicinal field, doctors that have trained their whole lives and have careers that are, more qualified to make these decisions? Why are we letting law enforcement entities make medical decisions? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Fair enough. So, we have fulfilled 2 hours.
Nice.
So what do you think? How do you think it went, man? I never got a reply from anybody in the peanut gallery there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I don't mind the lurkers, and I appreciate everybody.
Oh, no, I don't mean the lurkers. I mean the motherfuckers that never shut the fuck up.
Is that the case?
Oh, yeah. I'll be talking.
Something we've said
I'll be on fucking headphones with these guys later, and they won't be shutting the fuck up. And I'll be like, when I literally asked you guys to say something, you gave me fucking nothing. So that's you, Cowboy. That's you, Shadow. That's you, Nakatami.
You can just get that feedback later off air, and
but I mean,
we'll make sure to apply those suggestions.
I wanted you to be able to see that feedback as well.
Sure. Well, we'll talk about that. I mean, we're always.
But as far as just lurkers, dude, we fucking love lurkers. It's fine.
Yeah.
But please know, we will be back next weekend with another episode, and you are 100% welcome to jump in here. We said it earlier. I'll say it again. If this is an ask us anything type scenario, you literally can bring up anything. You can ask us anything. I think one of the things that you'll find out about myself and Giftedgaia here is we do believe in transparency, so we don't have a problem asking questions. Meanwhile, topics. If there are very specific topics you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, just let us know. Just tell us, and when you're watching the show and you're like, I really wish they would talk about blah 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 blah. Let us know in the chat so that way we have a few days to put a little bit of research into it and formulate an opinion if we didn't already have one, and we'll absolutely fucking talk about it. But,
agreed. And I really like being put on the spot too, and just having that organic conversation unfold without any scripting. So
organic conversation and speaking on behalf of something that I'm not educated about at all are two different things, though. To be fair,
sure.
I'll never want to get into a conversation that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll be like, you know what, this is going to be a great topic for next week, and we'll kind of shoot it that way.
Well, I know something that you are educated on, and that's Utopian.io.
Oh, yeah.
Utopian.io.
We did mention Utopian.io earlier. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but Utopian, we've been dealing with them. We're trying to get them to come on board as sponsors. So if anybody isn't really sure what the fuck we're talking about, there's a really good chance that today's show is been brought to you in part by Utopian.io. What Utopian does is it empowers open source projects, similar to GitHub, if you know what GitHub is. But they empower open source projects by providing a unified platform for communication, collaboration, social media content, and bounty exchange.
Yeah, and with the majority of open source projects owned and managed by larger companies or corporations, sometimes the independent innovators have a hard time amassing the support and the funds that they would need to grow their projects or to promote their projects to a community.
Right, and that's where Utopian steps in by providing an all-in-one professional social media platform to the open source community. They can help bring together project owners, investors, contributors from all fields to collaborate on and bring them all to one decentralized platform. So, yeah, Utopian.io, man. It's more like... I think a lot of people, especially on Twitch, content creators are at least familiar with GitHub. Sure. A lot of us are using open sourced software. We're using OBS or we're using Streamlabs OBS. And a lot of those resources and those libraries you're going to find over on GitHub. And Utopian is like an advanced step of GitHub, very similar to how Streamlabs OBS is a step forward for OBS. Mm-hmm. It still utilizes this system, but is built on top of it. It's very, very comparable in regards to what Utopian.io is doing with GitHub. They're expanding a way to utilize what's already been created before. So,
and I think Utopian.io, I think they have over 6,000 or nearly 6,000 contributors currently. Yeah. So it's definitely a fantastic place to help bring your projects to fruition.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Well, Mr. Clearwater?
Well, Mr. Gaia?
That's the team right there.
That's it, man. I know that we will speak with each other again much sooner than next week. But for everyone that was here, and everybody that is still here, and everybody that decides to come back and check us out, again, we will be back next week. If you happen to miss the action live, all episodes will be put into a collections tab right here on this channel. So you'll be able to hit collections up above, where you'll not only find episodes of Like Minds, but you'll also find my other show, Hots or Shots. And yeah.
Maybe Gaia? Sometime in mid-February, early February, we can meet up for a Saints versus Bears live podcast Super Bowl extravaganza, and we will definitely enjoy some proper waffles at that time.
I'm proper waffles. I can't wait to see them live.
Hmm.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for being here, Gaia. And let's do this again next week.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Johnny, and hopefully you'll be hitting that 100 here shortly.
I'm Johnny Clearwater.
And I'm Giftedgaia.
And this has been Like Minds. And we will see you guys again very, very soon. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. Didn't get them all to go away. Which one did I miss? There's one. There's one.
It would be your frame that was around you.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find it. There it is.
So we're muted.